everyone, welcome to the Australia Dental Podcast. Dave Houston's my name. I'm the owner and CEO of the Australia Dental Group in Moreton Bay. Today we have a very special guest, someone that all the dentists at Australia Dental know very well, Dr Graeme Westacott. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So just take us through, start out in the early days of your dental career. What sort of drew you into it at the beginning? Like, what you had to obviously apply to go to dental school, but what was the calling that came up at that moment?
Well, I think it goes back to when I was about 10 years of age.
Okay.
And I fell in love with biology. Absolute fascination with the workings of the human body. And so for the next 5 or 6 years, I swung between doing medicine and dentistry, and then maybe thought about physiotherapy.
Okay, cool.
And it was at the end of year 10 when I went to courses and careers that I made that decision that I was going to go in with dentistry and not medicine.
And what was the event at age 10 that got you interested in biology? Like, do you recall it? Or was it just
I came across a set of books by a gentleman by the name of Paul White, who was a Sydney doctor who did some work as a missionary in East Africa during the 1930s and 40s, and he would write a whole series of books known as the Jungle Doctor series.
Right.
And it just fascinated me, the things that were being done then.
Right, so this was a frontline doctor in
what is now Tanzania.
It would have been wild.
In the 1930s.
Pretty wild days.
He experienced the discovery of antibiotics and things like that.
Wow, okay.
And it was really quite fascinating.
Just captured you, just as a young man, just sort of, you thought, this is me, this is the pathway I want to take.
This is me doing something medical,
Yeah, wow. And dental school, where did you study dentistry?
UQ, that was the only dental school in Queensland at the time.
Okay, cool. And having grown up, and you grew up in Brisbane, or you grew up in?
I grew up in Cairns.
In Cairns, okay, cool. So you had to sort of travel down.
I came down here to study dentistry and liked Brisbane and stayed.
Yes. Oh, okay. Well, that's really cool. And any fond recollections of UQ? I mean, what year did you graduate? It would have been
81.
81. Okay. So, what are 2 or 3 memories of dental school that really stand out along the journey?
Oh, do you mean positive, negative, or each?
I mean just notable. Anything notable. Anything, interesting and notable that pops up. Yeah.
We had a very social year. We used to run a happy hour which ostensibly ran from 5 till 6 o'clock on a Friday.
I see.
Most people would start going home about 9:30.
Okay.
And just about all of the staff would be there as well.
Right. Well, and this was Turbot Street.
This was Turbot Street.
My dad went to UQ, and he spoke very fondly of Turbot Street and the sort of, and the events that went on there, and the social.
Oh yes, it was great.
Yeah.
Of course, some of the lectures and demonstrators could be very cruel to you if they thought you
weren't up to it.
If you'd stuffed up.
Okay.
And it's amazing, I tell the students when I'm teaching that you could have done a very, very good crown preparation.
Yes.
But if your next case was a scale and clean and you left behind plaque, you'd be failed for the session.
Right. Okay.
And then be told that it was bad dentistry.
Yes. And interesting, I mean, just to jump ahead a bit, you spent a number of years teaching at Griffith.
Yes.
So do you take that same sort of hardline approach these days, or is it sort of more softly? Like, I would say that dental students need the tough love to some degree.
To some degree, yes. And I mean, if they do something wrong, I'll hand out a fail grade.
Yep.
But I won't make them feel very small.
Yes.
I'm
part of the journey.
Determined not to yell at them, determined not to tell them that that they're no good.
Yes.
Because that's what we faced, and a lot of people from my cohort didn't have an enormous amount of self-confidence
on the back
because of that.
Yes. Yeah, it's such a fine line in teaching, isn't it? Like between giving the constructive criticism that's needed, but not crushing the flame of the spirit of, a young individual that
Yes.
that hopefully can grow into a burning fire of self-confidence as well. So
Indeed, and that varies from one student to the next, because some students do need to have their egos taken down a peg.
Need to pour a bucket on the flame.
And some of them need to be supported.
Lifted up.
And telling them, look, you're better than you think you are.
Yeah. No, and that's cool. And so you finished at UQ flying colours, I'm assuming.
I got a fairly ordinary pass degree.
Well, that's all right. And out into the workforce, what was your first posting then?
After a short stint at Brisbane Dental Hospital, I went to Innisfail at the base hospital, and I was there for 5 years.
Yeah.
Then I moved back to Brisbane, had another stint at the dental hospital, and then moved into the private sector while I did some further studies.
Okay, and what further studies was that in dentistry or
No.
Yeah, I wondered.
No. Completely different.
Yeah.
I now hold a Bachelor of Music.
Wow.
With honours.
Okay.
With principal study of pipe organ performance and second study of composition.
Well, if we'd have known that, we would have organised a pipe organ to be here. That's amazing. Okay.
And I went on from there to doing a PhD in musicology as well.
And what was the thesis, or what was the PhD researching?
I was looking at the association between music composition and speech composition, that is classical rhetoric, in a group of 17th century North German organists who wrote specific pieces of music. And I analysed those and showed how rhetoric, the art of speechcraft, how much it influenced the art of music composition.
That you've just blown my mind. That's the most. I didn't think that's where the conversation would go, Jack. But that's so cool. So because you've always, I actually even have noted in when you would. We'll get onto it in a minute, but you teach our dentists. We gratefully accept your teaching services for our graduate dentist classes and our CPD program within the group. But you've got such a musicality to your voice in just the tone, the tonality, and I'm sort of investigating public speaking and the art of public speaking at the moment. Did you always sort of have that musicality to your voice, or was it something that as you studied music and got more and more into it, it sort of, especially the correlation between music and voice is what you're saying you researched?
Yes.
So, is there some correlation there, or am I just sort of imagining that?
In all honesty, I don't know. It's something that crept up on me.
Yeah.
I didn't sing much as a teenager.
Yes.
But then when I got up to Innisfail, I got into a couple of singing groups and even then played in a band for a few years and developed a voice.
Yes.
And then when I came back to do my bachelor's in music, I joined a number of choirs and did an enormous amount of singing, so probably the timbre in the voice and the accent comes from years and years of singing in choirs.
Yes. And what was were you a baritone, a bass, did you, how would you describe your voice?
Well, my natural voice is first tenor.
Okay, right, wow.
But for a lot of the time that I sang for 7 years in the cathedral choir.
Right.
And for 6 of those years, I actually sang alto.
Wow. Well, that's so cool. Because so at high school, I sang in the choir too. And I made some of my best friends were in the choir. So if only we'd known that as well, we could have just we could have busted out a couple of, I won't put you on the spot to sort of sing anything today, but maybe next time though, I think next time we will try and, we'll try and coordinate we could just do a bit of singing or do something. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. I think we need to figure out where our sort of, interests, collide in terms of singing. Well, that's cool. So I guess in those, it sounds like even throughout your dental career, you've always had this alternate interest.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and that's provided some sort of, describe to me the importance of that balance. Because I meet dentists whose hobby is dentistry.
Yeah.
And not that I worry about them, but like, obviously they're quite content, but I also meet others with a deep alternate interest that just can take their mind away from the intensity of dentistry. Talk to me about how it's the utility of that in your life.
Well, I'm only being a little bit tongue-in-cheek when I say I'm actually a musician, but there's no money in music, so I fix teeth for a living.
Yes.
But that's getting close to where I'm at.
Right. Yes. So music is the first love, and the dentistry facilitates the lifestyle that enables the music. Right.
Yes.
So, and you play every day? You would...
Oh, if only.
Right. Yeah.
I'm currently the parish organist for St Andrew's Anglican Church at Lutwich.
Okay, right.
But there are times when I can go all week without getting any practice done. I just turn up for the service and play.
Straight into it.
But this coming Sunday, there's a fairly big work. So yes, I'm doing a couple of hours practice a day to bring this piece of music up to scratch.
Well, that's cool. So you're performing almost weekly?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wow, okay. And that must be quite enriching to every Sunday just to be performing. Obviously, there's a community of people there you sort of know and have a common belief system with. Talk about the importance of that too, because I think a lot of younger dentists and younger people, I think, in society don't necessarily have that community as much. They look for it online, but that seems like a bag of a hornet's nest.
It's certainly one of the communities that I'm associated with is within the church. Yeah. And apart from music, I'm really not all that active.
Right.
I used to be. I used to do an enormous amount, but as I'm getting older, I'm handing over the reins to others.
Oh, that's good. No, that's it.
But there's not many trained organists around these days.
No, you'd be in demand. You get the call, you get the sort of,
Well, there's a number of places, number of churches which don't have a regular organist. And I don't do it, but some friends of mine who are organists will play for 3, maybe even 4 services on a Sunday. Right. Just going from one church to the next, from one tradition to the next.
Right. Oh, that's a big gig. So going back to dentistry, so you've gone into private practice, as an employee, I would assume initially, and then talk to me about the years you were employed and where was that and what was the sort of arrangement there.
Well, I started off when I started my Bachelor of Music just doing a Saturday morning. Right. And then I changed practices and I was doing 2 days a week. Yep. And after that, a dental surgery actually opened up on the University of Queensland campus. Right. And I literally walked in and went, "Hello, I'm a dentist. Do you need a spare pair of hands?" Well, she did. She was about 7 months pregnant at the time. Right. So I moved in, and in between lectures and in between music lessons, I would be doing dentistry. Oh, what a perfect setup. It really was, because then I could earn a little bit more money. Yeah. And
it's putting your into lecture breaks to economic use, Yeah,
well, that's right. That's right. I can remember at one stage my organ teacher made a comment about how I was doing my honours degree in a part-time mode, because so often he'd say, "Oh, can you meet such and such a time?" I go, "No, sorry, I'm doing a clinic session." Yes.
Well, no, that's sort of quite. I mean, interestingly, I actually did a year of science to when I first, and then I did a year of arts. Yes. It's such a, I noticed when you were going to the science lecture, you'd walk in and you could hear a pin drop. And then with the arts lecture, you'd be about a kilometre away. You could hear them screaming and it was just, I just thought it's such an interesting bifurcation of personality types. But for you to be drawn into both, I think there's a beauty in that,
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was your first private practice experience. It was on campus at UQ.
The first one of any reasonable amount of work done, yeah.
And so tell me about the journey then into your own private practice. How did that sort of evolve?
Well, I moved address to Aspley.
Yeah.
And with the Brisbane traffic getting heavier, it was often taking me an hour to drive
Yes.
from Aspley to St Lucia and
Yeah.
another hour to get back again. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
It's too
I've got
much.
better things to do with my time than spend 2 hours a day sitting behind the wheel of my car. And then a practice came up for sale, which was literally 5 minutes drive from my home.
Yeah.
I investigated it. I thought it was suitable. I bought it. 29 years later, I'm still running it.
Perfect. Yeah, and talk to me about, and what's the name of that practice? Do you mind?
G-Bung Dental Surgery.
Yeah, G-Bung Dental Surgery for everyone. And yeah, it's got a couple, is it 2-chair clinic?
3 chairs.
3 chairs, yes, that's right. And
It's currently evolving rapidly.
Yeah.
I'm starting to bring in a lot more technology.
Yeah.
I've put in a CBCT
Yeah.
and OPG machine because I'm
Brilliant.
placing implants. So
Yeah.
that now allows me to do all of the work on site. A little later on, I guess, when we talk about changes, I'll talk about further changes that I'm bringing in.
Please go on, because I
Okay.
mean, it's fascinating to see you sort of 29 years into your clinic development, then just go on this capital expenditure sort of investment cycle and really embrace the new technology. I wouldn't say it's a common thing for sort of necessarily older practices to do. So and I mean, through your teaching at the university, perhaps you've been exposed to sort of the absolute sort of frontier of where the industry's going in technology. So yeah, talk to me about that, the
Sure.
technology shifts and yeah.
Well, for years I've been interested in digital dentistry.
Yeah.
And periodically put my toe in the water and done a crown using digital dentistry and CAD camming, and I've always gone, no, what I'm currently doing with a putty and wash impression is still more accurate, but that's now changing.
Yes.
And then
So you think that technology is really well and truly, you saw
going
perhaps
ahead.
in the last year or two that it's just tipped over and it's become,
tipped over.
Yeah.
Not only that, I was in Perth for the Australian Dental Congress in May,
Yeah.
and I attended the lectures in AI. And that's just a whole new world opening, and it's convinced me that the real future of the profession lies in the marriage of digital dentistry and AI.
Yeah.
And you can just do so much more better diagnosis. The AI can show you potential pitfalls that you might be encountering in a splint or in an implant retained bridge.
Yeah.
And it just will serve to really make you a better practitioner.
Yeah, it's becoming the a bit like the university tutor on your shoulder.
Yeah.
That we all had. That I mean, you played that role as well. So
Yes.
well, that's exciting, and it sounds like for someone who is, I guess, what you're saying, like a musician at heart, but then you've embraced dentistry in terms of like my interpretation of you when I first sat next to you at the ADAQ day was, you love dentistry, like there was no, so I know you must, what I'm saying is if your passion for dentistry is, you put that as sort of mild, your love of music must be sort of truly next level. But because I look at just objectively and say, the degree to which you've dived into the theory and practice and the art of dentistry is very, very deep.
Yes, it's probably a function more of who I am in that I'm very, very driven and driven to be as absolutely good as I can.
Yeah.
Very, very much the perfectionist at heart.
Yeah.
But then you've got to try to be satisfied with excellence because none of us really make that grade to absolute perfection.
Just an important question. How have you dealt with that? The internal standards demanding perfection, and then there's always a piece that you've got to reach with yourself within dentistry that.
Well, that's where the distractions of music and other hobbies come
Really?
in. It's one of the things I always make sure I say to each of my fifth-year students is to say, the most important piece of non-clinical advice I can give you is to have something else in your life that is your real passion.
Wow.
And when I look at things like DPR and even some of my mentees, they'll put in a message saying, something went wrong and I'm just really stewing about it. When's it all going to stop?
Yeah.
And you've got to really very, very kindly tell them you're never going to stop making mistakes.
Yeah.
And even if it's not a mistake because you're dealing with biology, not everything is going to respond in the textbook way.
Yes.
And in one sense, you've got to be able to put it all behind you when you walk out of the clinic at the end of the day. And having something else which is your real passion is one of the keys to it. Whether that's being totally passionate about your family, making sure that you're always there for your children's sporting or artistic events and achievements. Whether, like me, it's being passionate about music. Whatever it is, you might become involved in environmental causes and write letters of protest to the government over something that you think they're doing wrong. You've got to have some other driving force, and dentistry becomes a job, but don't let it define who you are.
Wow.
So
super
to me, that's the most important thing that a young dentist should know.
And it's really important advice and almost counterintuitive advice to what, they're there. You wouldn't expect that advice coming from a university where it's almost you're here to develop the art and be as perfect as you can be. But I think it's so fantastic that you've been able to. So tell me about your teaching. You've gone, how many years have you been?
This is my 11th year at Griffith.
11th year at Griffith.
And I also taught for 5 years at UQ before then.
Wow.
As a clinical demonstrator.
Yes.
I did take lectures at one stage on occlusal wear at Griffith, but I don't do that anymore. I'm just involved in the clinical setting.
And you've seen some fantastic young dentists, I'd imagine, over the years.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a great delight for me when I attend a postgraduate course, a CPD course, and there's one of my former students up there taking the course.
Yes.
And I'm just totally chuffed.
Yeah. Look, and we've been the beneficiary. We run an in-house CPD program, and I asked if you'd be kind enough to give a lecture a few years ago, and I think you've probably done a dozen since then. Over at various intervals, and we've been so appreciative of that. How have you found? I mean, it probably was your first opportunity to teach dentists who are still young in their career, but graduated.
It's my first experience of postgraduate.
Yeah, postgraduate. Yeah. How is that? How have you found our program? I'm always interested in the feedback, and has it?
Well, I think you're probably asking the wrong person. You should be asking the people whom I'm teaching.
Yeah.
I get here and I deliver lectures and hands-on courses on things that I think I've got a bit of knowledge about.
Sure.
Certainly the young dentists seem to appreciate it.
Yeah.
And even now a couple of people who no longer work for you still contact me with, it's become almost a de facto mentoring program.
Yes, no, and we're so grateful for it. It's really you've added colour, you've added expertise and care to the cohort. And I really feel a variety of voices, internal, external, adds to their depth of understanding and their confidence.
Oh, yes.
And even just the pool of experience as well. So, Graeme, you've added so much colour to our own program. You've lived a colourful life by
seem like it.
The sound of it. And just wanted to say many thanks for all the work you've done in our program. Long may it continue. And thank you for your time today.
Okay, thank you very much.